Ever scrolled through social media and thought,
Yeah.
wow, some people really think they're the main character in a movie?
Yeah.
We're diving deep into main character syndrome today, and
Mhm.
not just the surface level kind.
Yeah.
We're unpacking a really thought-provoking essay from Aeon Essays
Okay.
by philosophy professor Anna Gottlieb
Interesting.
that explores the surprisingly deep, even philosophical dangers of this super relatable phenomenon.
And it's more than just being annoying on social media.
Right.
This deep dive will explore how those main character tendencies might be affecting us in ways we haven't even considered.
It's insidious, right?
Yeah.
Like it sneaks up on you.
It really does.
So Gottlieb kicks off her essay with some scenarios that are almost comically relatable.
Okay.
Picture this, a near-miss car accident
Oh.
where the other driver seems to exist solely to endanger you, the star of this harrowing ordeal.
Right.
Or how about that all too familiar sight of someone shoving past you? For the perfect selfie, oblivious to anyone else in their quest for the ultimate Instagram moment.
Totally.
You've seen it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So those examples, while humorous,
yeah.
highlight how our digital age has amplified this age-old craving for attention.
That's true.
Social media gives us a platform to perform
Just age?
and seek validation from a global audience.
Solely.
But as Gottlieb argues,
Yeah.
this seemingly harmless desire to be the main character can have serious ethical consequences.
Okay, so how does she get from selfies to serious ethical concerns?
Right.
That's where the concept of narrative identity comes in.
Okay.
It's the idea that we understand ourselves through stories, through our own personal narratives.
Okay.
But what happens when those narratives become so self-centered that we lose sight of the fact that everyone else is living out their own complex story?
That's where the danger lies.
Right.
Main character syndrome feeds on solipsism.
Whoa, big word.
This idea that only one's own mind is real and that the external world and other people are just props in our personal narratives.
Wow.
We stop seeing others as individuals with their own thoughts,
Right.
feelings, and experiences.
So instead of a world of complex individuals, we
Okay.
start to see everyone else as just NPCs,
Yes.
non-player characters in our own video game of life.
Exactly.
I know I've definitely felt that way before, like I was just an extra in someone else's over-the-top drama.
Right.
Dehumanizing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that lack of empathy, that inability to understand and share the feelings of others,
Yeah.
is what Gottlieb argues can lead to a decline in morality.
Okay, I can see that.
Because if we don't truly see the people around us,
Right.
if we don't recognize their inherent worth and dignity,
Yeah.
how can we possibly treat them ethically?
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
It's like that quote from Gottlieb,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm paraphrasing here, that morality isn't something we do in isolation. It's something we build together through our interactions with others.
Yes.
But main character syndrome throws a wrench in that whole idea, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
It creates this disconnect where we're so focused on our own narrative, our own needs and desires,
Right.
that we fail to recognize the needs and desires of those around us. And when that happens,
Yeah.
our ability to act ethically,
Right.
to build a just and compassionate society, is severely compromised.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And this is where things get even more complicated, because Gottlieb connects this main character mentality
Oh, okay.
to much larger movements,
Like what?
like effective altruism and long-termism.
Okay, so before we dive into that, can you give us a quick rundown of what those movements are all about,
Sure.
for those of us who might not be familiar?
Of course. In a nutshell, effective altruism is the idea that we should use evidence and reason to figure out how to benefit others as much as possible.
Okay.
It's about maximizing the good we do in the world, often focusing on large-scale global issues.
Okay.
Long-termism, building on this idea,
Yeah.
prioritizes the well-being of future generations,
Okay.
even over the needs of those alive today.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's about making choices that will have the greatest positive impact on the future, even if those choices come at a cost to the present.
Exactly.
That's definitely a thought-provoking idea.
It is.
But how does Gottlieb connect this to main character syndrome?
Right.
That's what I'm really curious about.
Okay.
Let's unpack that right after this.
Okay.
Okay, so we're talking about effective altruism and long-termism movements focused on doing the most good for the most people, even if those people haven't been born yet.
Yeah,
It's a big picture way of thinking.
it is.
But where does the whole main character problem come in?
Well, imagine yourself as someone who believes they have the solution to some of the world's biggest problems, that they hold the key to ensuring a brighter future for humanity.
Right.
It's easy to see how that kind of thinking, while potentially noble, could easily slip into a main character mindset.
So it's like those effective altruists and long-termists
Yeah.
start seeing themselves as the heroes of the story, the ones destined to save the world.
In a way, yes.
Wow.
And Gottlieb points out that this can lead to a disregard for the individual experiences of those alive today.
Yeah, it's interesting how that happens.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we want a better future,
Right.
but not at the expense of
Right.
all of us who are here right now.
Exactly. The needs of the many, especially those hypothetical future generations,
Yeah.
start to outweigh the needs of the few, even if the few are all of us living right now.
It's kind of dehumanizing in a weird way almost.
It is. It's like we become those NPCs again.
Right.
Just background characters in the epic saga of future progress.
That's a chilling thought.
It is.
And you mentioned earlier that some proponents of long-termism believe manipulation is justified if it leads to a better future.
Yes.
That's pretty intense.
It is.
Like, where do we draw the line, you know?
It gets to the heart of this philosophical dilemma.
Yeah.
How do we balance the needs of the present with the needs of the future?
Right.
How do we work towards a better tomorrow without sacrificing the well-being of those who are here today?
Yeah.
These are complicated questions.
They really are.
And Gottlieb isn't suggesting that there are easy answers.
No. If there were, we would have figured them out by now, right?
Right.
Right. It's not like she's saying effective altruism and long-termism are inherently bad things.
No, not at all.
It's more about recognizing the potential pitfalls of this kind of thinking, right?
Exactly.
Like, they come from a good place.
Right, even with the best intentions, even when driven by a genuine desire to make the world a better place, we can still fall into these main character traps.
Right, it's like that road to hell being paved with good intentions, kind of.
Exactly. And those traps can have real-world consequences.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about it this way.
Okay.
If we believe that the ends always justify the means, if we prioritize the hypothetical well-being of future generations over the actual well-being of those alive today, what's to stop us from justifying all sorts of actions in the name of the greater good?
It's a slippery slope, right?
It is.
Once we start saying like, oh, it's okay to do this one little bad thing because ultimately it'll lead to a better future.
Exactly.
It's like, where does it end?
Right, where do you draw the line?
Yeah, exactly.
And who gets to decide where that line is?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a lot to process.
It is.
So on the one hand, we have this idea that we should be aware of our own main character tendencies.
Yes.
That we should strive to see the people around us as individuals with their own stories to tell.
Right.
But then we have these movements like effective altruism and long-termism, which, while well-intentioned, could also feed into this main character mindset on a much larger scale.
Exactly.
Feels like we're walking a tightrope here.
We are.
Like, how do we find that balance?
And that's why it's so important to have these conversations, to really unpack these complex ideas and consider the potential consequences of our actions, both on a personal and a societal level.
Right.
Because the truth is, none of us have all the answers.
Oh, we're all just figuring it out as we go.
We're all just trying to figure it out as we go.
It's kind of humbling in a way, isn't it?
It is.
To admit that we don't have all the answers, that we might even be wrong about some things.
Absolutely.
Like, I've been wrong about a lot of things.
Haven't we all?
Yeah.
But it's also liberating.
Yeah.
Because once we let go of the need to be right, to be the hero of the story, it opens us up to the possibility of genuine connection, of learning from each other, of building a better future together.
I like that.
And that brings us to Gottlieb's surprisingly hopeful conclusion.
Okay. There's hope.
There is hope.
Yeah.
The idea that maybe the antidote to main character syndrome isn't about fixing people, but about rediscovering something much more profound.
Ooh, okay. I'm intrigued.
Let's discuss that after a quick break.
So you're saying there's hope. After that deep dive into the philosophical side of main character syndrome, I have to admit, I'm looking for some optimism.
Well, Gottlieb's essay doesn't end with us all becoming selfless robots for the sake of future generations. Instead, she circles back to something deeply human: love.
Love. Okay, I wasn't expecting that.
The
But I'm intrigued.
And she's not talking about the romanticized Hollywood version of love. She's talking about the kind of love that requires vulnerability, responsibility, and a willingness to see the other person fully, even in their messy, complicated humanity.
It's that stepping outside of our own heads thing again, isn't it? Recognizing that we exist in relation to others, not just as individuals on parallel tracks.
Exactly. And that's what main character syndrome makes impossible. It traps us in a transactional view of relationships. What can this person do for my story? Rather than approaching connection with openness and a willingness to be changed by the encounter.
It makes you think about those relationships that do feel transactional, right? Where it's all about who has the more impressive job, the wilder vacation photos, the more enviable problems. It's exhausting.
It is. Because true connection thrives on authenticity, not performance. It requires us to be present with someone, not just trying to fit them into a pre-written narrative. And sometimes that means being comfortable not being the main character in the story.
That's a really powerful thought,
Mhm.
because if we're always so busy crafting our own narratives, vying for the spotlight, we miss out on the richness of those quieter, unscripted moments of genuine connection.
And those moments, Gottlieb argues, are where we find true meaning and fulfillment. It's in those moments of vulnerability, of shared humanity, that we break free from the isolating grip of main character syndrome.
That's a really beautiful way to think about it. So where does that leave us? If we want to fight this tendency within ourselves, where do we even begin?
Gottlieb ends her essay with a line that, at first, seems a bit bleak. You're on Earth. There's no cure for that. But I actually find it strangely comforting,
Comforting. How so?
because it reminds us that we're all in this together. None of us are exempt from the human experience with all its messiness and uncertainty. We're all going to have those main character moments, those times when we stumble and falter and forget that others have their own rich inner lives.
It's about embracing our shared imperfection then.
Exactly. It's about recognizing those moments, those uncomfortable reminders that we are not, in fact, the center of the universe as opportunities for growth and connection. It's about asking ourselves, what does it mean to show up authentically in this moment, in this relationship, even if it means letting go of the need to be the main character?
That's a really profound thought to end on. So for our listeners, maybe the challenge is this. Pay attention to the narratives you're immersed in, both online and off. Are they fostering connection or isolation? Are you approaching your relationships with genuine curiosity and openness? Or are you just trying to fit everyone into your own pre-written script?
Because the truth is, life is far more interesting, far more meaningful when we embrace the unpredictable, messy reality of being a supporting character in the grand tapestry of human experience.
And on that note, it's time to wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us as we explored the surprisingly deep implications of main character syndrome. Until next time, keep questioning, keep connecting, and remember, you're not the only main character in this story.